Hey everybody, it's James here from NeuralNet Games, and today we're ranking all the items at Prosperity 3. I've also ranked all of the items at Prosperity 1 and 2, and I've got an item discussion video series where I discuss how each item works in more detail. I'm going to put links to both of those playlists down in the description, so make sure you go ahead and check it out. So let's talk about the rankings. First, we've got S, which is overpowered and just broken. Then we've got A, which is nice and powerful, but maybe not completely game breaking. We've got B, which is reasonably powerful and works with the majority of classes. We've got C, which can be powerful, but generally doesn't work with a lot of classes, or maybe is a little bit lower power. And then we've got D. These are items that just don't really work at all, and these are sometimes some of the worst items in the game. Okay, let's get started with D tier. Our first item at D tier is the Heavy Greaves. And the Heavy Greaves, they solve a problem that does not exist. Forced movement is not a problem. There's really only one scenario you'll probably love these in. Once in a while, the monsters make your life tough by moving you, but sometimes when they move you, it doesn't even cause a problem. What if they pull you into melee range and you get to double attack top and bottom and kill them? I mean, it's not a problem. And when it does happen, it's not always bad. And there's so much opportunity cost. You wear these boots, you don't get to wear, boots of striding, boots of speed, etc. There's so much opportunity cost. Just not worth it for any reason at all. Our next item at D tier is the Jagged Sword. And the Jagged Sword is just far too expensive for what it does. And also, it's very specific to certain builds. I mean, it's for melee classes mostly. You want to have a long rest type of build where you're using spent items so that, you can long rest and get it back and use it again. And yeah, the cost at 30 gold is just, it's slightly better than the Poison Dagger. But the Poison Dagger is 20 gold. So, they're pretty much even. That's why they're at D tier. They just don't really make sense for a lot of classes. And when they do make sense, they barely make sense. Our next D tier item is the Amulet of Life. And Prosperity 3 has a lot of ups and downs. It's a bit of a roller coaster. The Amulet of Life is no good. It's just no good. A healing potion only takes up one small item slot and it heals 3. Very rarely, unless you're very specifically spec'd for it, will the Amulet of Life do more than 3. Heal more than 3. It also costs twice as much as the minor healing potion. And would you rather have Eagle Eye Goggles and crush monsters by attacking with advantage and killing them? Or would you rather heal 1 hit point per use? Like Eagle Eye Goggles, Spellweaver, Impaling Eruption, Fire Orbs, add 3, 4, 5 extra damage depending on how the pulls work. Or would you like to heal 1? Yeah, the Eagle Eye Goggles are a bit more expensive, but the opportunity cost for the head slot when you're putting an Amulet of Life in, I mean, it's just way too high. Does not make sense. Definite D tier. I actually considered putting this in a lower tier. It's so bad for me. It does, and I know the argument is going to be, well, it removes poison and wound pretty consistently. Yeah, that's true, but so do a lot of things. I mean, it's not really that hard to do overall. I mean, maybe if you're in a 2-player party and you don't have you have very low amounts of healing, you don't have somebody who's got a good way of removing poison and wound, this could theoretically make sense, but other than that situation, no good. Okay, moving out of the basement tier and into C tier. But before that, I just wanted to let you know I've started a Magic the Gathering Arena channel. Make sure you go and subscribe to it. I'm going to be putting out lots of videos on Magic as well. It's a completely separate channel. I'll be doing Frosthaven and Gloomhaven, and I'll be doing Magic the Gathering Arena. A bit of a change of direction, but it's gonna be really fun, so make sure you go and check it out. Be one of the earliest subscribers, get in on the ground floor. So at C tier, we've got the Major Healing Potion. And it's actually ranked at the same tier as the Minor Healing Potion. And some of you may be thinking, are you insane? It heals drastically more. It takes up the same amount of slots. Why wouldn't it be a higher tier? And here's why. The cost. It's 3 times as much. You could be spending that 20 gold on an enhancement, on another item, etc. So it's got an opportunity cost in another way where it costs you so much to take. And let's say you have max reputation, the Minor Healing Potion is rentable. You buy it for 5, you sell it back for 5. It costs you nothing. You get to heal if you need it, and you get to save your money for things that are going to make you better overall. The extra 2 hit points is a slight buff, but sometimes you don't even need it, and it's just not worth it because of the cost. 3 times the cost does not equal plus 2 HP, doesn't scale very well, etc., etc. It's at C tier. At B tier, we have Chainmail. Chainmail, pretty good item. It's what I would say is in the sweet spot for number of charges. More charges is not always better because when you long rest, you may not refresh the item if you haven't used up all of your charges. So, if you've got something with 4 charges, use up 3 of them and you need to long rest, your armor's not going to refresh, actually making it less effective, not more effective. Compare, I don't want to spoil things, but there's armor with 4 charges. We won't, go any further than that. But against hide armor, you use it twice, you long rest. And so there's a bit of a sweet spot. I think Chainmail has found it. However, it's only B tier because of the -1 modifiers. When you have that many -1 modifiers, makes it pretty hard for classes who don't have the ignore negative item effects. Makes it pretty hard for those classes to use the armor. That's why it's B tier. At A tier, we have the Moon Earring, and the Moon Earring, it is so close. I waffled for so long between B and A, but you know what? I was like, No, I'm putting it in A because there are quite a few spend items, and even if you're not trying to go for a long rest build, it's still going to be quite useful for you to, untap magic. It's going to be, good for you to refresh. Even if you have a couple items, it can very often be worth it. And don't forget, there's a bunch of tricky timing things that you can do to double use items and stuff like that. Make sure you watch my item discussion video series on it. I go way more into detail on how it works there. Some pretty cool, crafty, cagey kind of Gloomhaven vet moves. So it is, I think it's A tier maybe by just this much. It could definitely be B tier though. Make sure, comment below, let me know what you think. At S tier, we have the Long Spear. The Long Spear is just going to be good for a lot of classes. And for those classes, it's pretty much game breaking. It will change scenarios for you. If you've got a long rest build and use things like the Moon Earring, and that's probably what pushed Moon Earring up into A tier, is there's some stuff that when you get to use it more like this without long resting, then things get crazy. I mean, Lightning Bolt loves the Long Spear so much, and things can just get ridiculous when you start, adding targets to these big damage melee attacks, and it is game breaking. This should probably have been a higher prosperity item. You would pay 50 gold for this and be happy for this effect. 30 gold is an absolute bargain for the Long Spear. It's definitely S tier. It's one of the top items in the entire game, and it's going to make scenarios quite quite a bit easier for you. Anyways, thanks so much for watching the video, and a special thank you to my subscribers and to my patrons. I wouldn't be here without you.